Hello and welcome to Happy Cells and Souls. My name is Julie Powers and I'm a licensed Zumba instructor and I'm a business partner with the Juice Plus company. And my missions in life are to help people understand that life is better when they're dancing through it and to inspire healthy living around the world. But my expanded mission is to create better health at the cellular level and more joy at the cellular level. We only get one body while we're here on Earth, and we need to use that body to spread light and love and joy in the world. And so I've had the remarkable honor of meeting all kinds of people from all walks of life throughout my years who do that, who spread light, love, and joy in the world and impact the world in very positive ways. And what I've learned is that it doesn't matter if we differ on politics, religion, culture, it doesn't matter. We can still learn from every single person if we keep our minds and our hearts open. And so that's what these conversations are all about. And today I would like to introduce you to somebody I've known for a very long time, Chris.hrouda. And Chris, I welcome you here because I think you have a really interesting story to share because you really have impacted and helped a team of people impact millions of people literally around the world through the American Red Cross. So Chris, welcome. I would love to just tell people that I've known you since high school. You were a year ahead of me in high school here in small town, Missouri. And what I remember from those days, we were in the same circles for a little while there, and you were pretty shy, pretty reserved. You
Still am.
You were the quiet guy, but you got a lot done. And I'm thinking that's probably, as you said, you still are, the way things happen is that you're the quiet guy, but you're getting a lot done. So can you tell us a little bit about your story and how you ended up going from small town Missouri to Washington, D.C. as the president of the Red Cross Biomedical Services? How'd that happen?
Yeah, well, thanks, Julie. It's great to be on. It's great to chat with you a little bit, and great to rekindle some long time relationships. And I appreciate you having me on for sure. But it's actually a pretty interesting story for me at least. I'm not sure about for anybody else, but for me at least, as I went to the University of Missouri Columbia out of high school, I went and got a degree in health services and got my certification as a medical technologist and went to work after I graduated, came back to Farmington for about a year, went to work at Bonne Terre Hospital as a director of laboratory services for Bonne Terre. A lot of people don't know I did that, but that was a Barnes Jewish Christian facility at the time. Spent about a year there, and I realized that this was not what my life calling was. It's not what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, even though I enjoyed it. So I went back to the university to get a master's degree and started working at the hospital blood bank, shaking tubes and taking care of transfusion patients. And that's when the Red Cross came in and acquired the laboratory. And that's how I started my employment with the Red Cross almost 35 years ago, 34 years ago, where they came in and acquired the facility that I was working in. So started my tenure at the Red Cross. And it's been a pretty wild journey over the last 35 years, but I've had an opportunity to work in lots of different places. I started in Columbia, Missouri, right there where I was going to school. Ended up in St. Louis a few years later, went to Peoria, Illinois, and took over as the CEO of the Blood Center in Peoria, Illinois for about 4 years. Then went down to Atlanta, and I was in Atlanta for almost 18 years. And I kind of co-lived in Atlanta and, as you say, Washington, D.C. Commuted back and forth for a number of years, had an apartment in Washington, D.C. for a number of years, but it's been a great experience. The Red Cross has been a wonderful organization to work for, a beautiful mission, and I've had the pleasure of being able to do it for a very long time.
Well, that is really fascinating. And it's great that you've been with the Red Cross for 30 years. That's amazing. And so as president of Biomedical Services, what does that actually mean besides you're the blood guy?
Well, I am the blood guy, right? And I've been called that quite a bit, or the vampire guy. But the Red Cross is really divided into two major categories, really three major categories, and that's the humanitarian services portion of our work, which includes disaster relief and training services, health and safety, CPR. We've got our international services where we help organizations around the world with vaccinations and a whole host of things. And we got our biomedical services or blood services operation, which I have the pleasure of running. And that really is, our core mission is to ensure that there's an adequate, safe supply of blood for patients that need it in hospitals across the country. That's what most people know about us when they think of the Red Cross. They either think of disaster services or blood services. But we do a whole host of other things. We have a lot of reference laboratories. We support hospitals with direct patient care activities. We do a lot of research at our laboratories across the country. And we have one of the world's largest, or we're co-owners of one of the world's largest testing laboratories. So it's a pretty extensive organization and lots of mission activities. But at the core, we provide blood products to hospitals for patients in need.
That's a really a huge list of things that you have to oversee. But I guess really the end result is that you help people stay alive. And I don't know any bigger mission in life other than to help people stay alive and to live their best lives. And I know that, I've been fortunate enough to be able to donate blood over the years. Sometimes I haven't donated as much as I should have or could have. But I feel like it's such a worthy volunteer effort, because can you sort of explain like whole blood versus the power bread, and kind of how people can do that? Because every time I donate, I try to post something in social media to remind others that they can do it too. But there are restrictions and limitations, and if you want to just sort of help people understand how they might be able to do that.
Yeah, as you say, there are restrictions, there are eligibility requirements, but the reality is a large percentage of the population actually can donate blood or is eligible to donate blood. Unfortunately, a reasonably small percentage like yourself do on a regular basis. But the core process is pretty simple, and it hasn't changed all that much over the last many decades. And that is, we do a health history screening. We make sure you're healthy, make sure you're feeling good, make sure you're not going to be harmed by the blood donation. Make sure that you're going to be safe. Your blood's going to be safe for recipients. The actual blood donation process, when you donate whole blood, doesn't take more than maybe on the bed for 10 minutes in most cases, but not for very long. Yes, there is a needle involved, and we do have to stick a needle in your arm in order to draw the blood, but it's really quick and reasonably painless, and that happens. It happens pretty quickly, and we draw a unit of blood, and then we take it back to our laboratories for processing. But there are other types of collections processes, and they're more. They weren't here 15, 20 years ago, and they've evolved. And that things like, as you say, power red. That's effectively a device that we use to hook you up to, and it takes your blood out, basically separates it into its components, returns the plasma and platelets, and keeps the red cells, and allows a lot of donors who qualify on both on height and weight requirements to donate 2 units of blood, which is it's pretty cool, right? It allows people to make the best use of their time, and you are deferred for twice as long, but on average, most of our donors don't come in more than 2 times a year anyway, so it's pretty cool. And there's also things like apheresis donations, where we get platelet donations from individuals. That's a little bit bigger commitment. It can take up to 3 hours of donation time. But it's really kind of the same process. We stick a couple of needles, a needle in both your arms, and we pull your blood out. We separate its components. We return the red cells and plasma back to you, and we keep the platelets, which allows us to take care of cancer patients and trauma patients and folks that are in desperate need of platelets to maintain their health status. So it's evolved a little bit, but in many ways, what we do has been the same process for decades. And it's to your point. It is the other. Unfortunately, there isn't anything like blood substitutes, and I know lots of organizations have been trying to develop them, but today, really, there's no substitute for the human blood donation for saving people's lives. And to your point, it happens. We need 13,000 people every day to walk in the door of a Red Cross facility in order to ensure that we meet the needs of the patients and the hospitals that we're committed to.
Wow, 13,000 people a day. That's a lot. And I know that when the pandemic hit and the world shut down, that meant that blood drives shut down too. And it was a while before you guys could have those safely for people to give. And so that was kind of the beginning of the blood shortage in that cycle. But I know there have been I'm throwing my pen, an ongoing cycle of blood shortage, good supply, blood shortage, good supply. And I guess it just depends on what kinds of disasters have occurred throughout the world. And so maybe you could just tell us a little bit about maybe even other needs that people need to know about besides just donating blood?
Yeah, donating blood, to your point, that COVID's been pretty challenging and rewarding both at the same time. And we've had everything from severe blood shortages, which we're in right now, right?
Mhm.
Right now, we're in actually, it's the worst shortage we've had in over a decade. In fact, I would almost label it as the worst shortage we've had in my 34 years here. It's been very challenging. But we've had some times during COVID, which seems to go on forever, where we've had decent and adequate supply. But you're right, blood donation and support of transfusion patients is one thing that we do in the Red Cross. We have a very robust mission. That's the beautiful thing about working for an organization like the Red Cross that I've been lucky enough to do for a long time. And it's that if you don't like one part of the mission, you can always go to another part of the organization and do something pretty spectacular too. And from disaster services, which is, say what you will about climate and things that are going on in the climate. What I can tell you is we're experiencing more significant and severe disasters that require a response from the Red Cross. Every year seems to be a record-breaking year for disaster services, and whether it's fires in the West and all on the West Coast, flooding around the country, tornadoes, which we just recently experienced here in Southeast Missouri not too long ago, and in Kentucky, to obviously hurricanes, which continue to wreak havoc on parts of the U.S. And they tend to continue to seem to hit disadvantaged populations kind of over and over and over again. And so we have obviously a huge mission in helping support recovery from preparedness for those disasters and recovery from those disasters. Training services, we're training people on CPR, we're training people on how to do first aid, aquatics safety. I mean, the list of mission delivery activities for the Red Cross go on, and people have the opportunity to engage us. They can come and if they want to be a volunteer and learn how to go serve at disasters, they can do that. They want to be a volunteer and give CPR training and be a certified trainer, they can do that, or aquatics training. If they want, come in and volunteer at a blood drive and be a blood donor ambassador and help support donors as they come into a blood drive, they can do that. We have volunteers that go in and do all kinds of administrative duties across the organization. We have volunteers that work in our finance department to help our finance people. We are principally a volunteer-driven organization. Yes, we have lots of paid employees, but we are principally a volunteer-driven organization. Or you can donate money. It's another way to support the mission of the Red Cross. Or as you know, you can donate blood, and they're all hugely important to delivery of our mission.
Yeah, so if somebody wanted to donate money because they can't donate another way physically, is there a way to kind of earmark where their donation goes, or is it just put into a huge fund that is distributed out as needed?
You can do either, right? We call that designated donation. So if you hey, you want to write a check to the Red Cross, you want to make it specifically for something like the Kentucky tornadoes, right? You can absolutely do that, and we'll make sure that all those donated dollars go to serving the people who have been affected by that particular disaster, whatever that happens to be. Or you can donate just for future disasters or for where the need is greatest. And that's actually very welcome because, unfortunately, a lot of what doesn't get fundraised for are the disasters that happen every day. And all across the country, we have thousands of home fires that happen every day. And Red Cross shows up, shelters those people, feeds them, provides them some basic care needs until they can get back on their feet. And those are the things you don't see on the news very often. Maybe you see them on your local news when there's a big fire that affects residents in an apartment complex, but you don't see those individual home fires. You don't see the individuals affected by that, and it's really hard to fundraise for that. So thankfully, we've got very generous donors who donate to wherever the need is greatest, and it goes to things like home fires that just kind of happen silently all the time.
So I did not realize that the Red Cross did individual home fires. I thought that it was always kind of a group effort. If it was a large group that was being affected, then the Red Cross stepped in. So if somebody has a family member or someone that is going through something like that, do they just call the main Red Cross phone number on the website? Or
Yeah, they can, and then in most cases, the fire department will get engaged. They know we try to work very closely with local fire departments, so they know how to connect with the Red Cross and they have the local resources. But yeah, they also can call their local Red Cross chapter, which they are all over the country. We cover every country every county in the United States. So there are multiple ways to get hold of us, but hopefully most cases it happens automatically, because when you're in the middle of that situation, right, it's pretty traumatic, and
Right.
most of the time, when we have the relationship with the fire department, we'll show up with and help support those individuals.
Well, I know that, for me, looking at an organization like the Red Cross, it's so huge and it is, I mean, it's everywhere. It's connected to every, like you said, every county in the entire country. You work with the local municipalities, I'm sure, and you work with, the federal government closely in just making sure that you are where you need to be at that time. But what I want people to understand is that it's even in the hospital room when your loved one is in surgery and they need multiple units of blood because they're going to die without it. And that happened with my daughter when she was in surgery, and she required multiple units of blood, and she was just a tiny little,
Yeah.
child, 6 years old when she had the surgery. And I didn't realize that they basically replaced all of her blood during that surgery. And so if people hadn't given their blood, she would have died on the operating table. And I know many people who have been in that same position. And so whether it's donating blood or it's donating funds or it's volunteering, there are so many things that you guys do. And I appreciate you putting so much of yourself into this. And I don't know that a lot of people locally really understand that you can go from small town Missouri to something that impacts millions of people if you have that heart to do that, and you are, driven to find a way to fit in and to use your gifts. And so one of the things that you've done, and we have just a couple of minutes left, is you've picked up your roots. You moved across the country. You were in Washington, D.C. and Atlanta. You lived in Tennessee for a while on a mountaintop. And
Mhm.
then you recently moved back to Missouri. Why? People
Yeah.
might ask.
Yeah. Yeah, it's who wouldn't want to move back to Farmington, Missouri? I mean, it's a
No,
wonderful
it's a
town.
lovely place. It's a
It's a
lovely
lovely
place.
place for sure. But to be honest with you, it was I had the opportunity. I've been lucky enough to get to work for an organization that provides me a lot of flexibility, and certainly now lots of people are working virtual, which many folks, of course, the people that go collect blood can't work virtual, but a lot of the leadership can, because we're doing things like this, right? Having Zoom calls and Teams calls. But so I'm lucky enough to be able to kind of live wherever I need to or want to, and be able to continue to do the job I need to do for the American Red Cross. So my parents still live here. My wife's a lot of my wife's family still lives here. Her parents no longer with us, but a lot of her family still live here. Her brothers still live here, and it was just the opportunity to come back home and help support my parents as they start to age a little bit, and be around family. Right, it was the opportunity to do that. It felt like it was absolutely the right time to do it, and again, we were blessed enough to be able to have the opportunity to do it, and we're really thrilled to be back.
That's great. And I know that you guys both enjoy being outdoors, and we have so much to offer in that area. And where you live is out in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
And so you do love to be surrounded by trees and trails and all kinds of things. In our last 2 minutes of this conversation, is there anything in particular that you would like to tell someone, either if they want to get involved, like working for the Red Cross, or in the blood industry, or just anything that you would like to impart your wisdom and shedding your light across the world in the best way possible?
Well, I would again encourage people to not underestimate the joy that comes with working for an organization like the Red Cross. And there are lots of other wonderful nonprofits in the world that do incredibly good things, and Red Cross is just one of them. And a lot of times people don't think about that those opportunities as career opportunities. And to be honest with you, when I first joined the Red Cross, I didn't expect to be here 34 years, and hopefully a lot more before this all ends. But I have, and it's been it's just been joy to be able to work all these years there. And if it's not, if working at a nonprofit's not your cup of tea and you want to volunteer, right? There's just so many opportunities to do good in the world by volunteering your time and energy and talents, of course, and treasure when you have some opportunity to donate. And then I would just end with people, making sure people understand that like your situation with your daughter, and it's the blood that's on the shelf that matters when people need it, right? We have a lot of people that will come out and donate when they hear that, hey, there's a huge shortage or there's a disaster, and I'm going to go donate, and that's great. We love those people. We need them. but it's the regular donors that come out, every 56 days for whole blood donations, or every 2 or 3 months, and they make sure that they do it. Right? That's the folks that, we need more people like that, because when somebody needs blood, there's not time to go collect it and test it and process it and ship it. It's got to be on the shelf, and we need an adequate supply of blood on a consistent basis to meet those needs. And so thank you for being a blood donor. Thank you for helping spread the message. And again, we'll look forward to having more opportunities like this in the future.
Well, I thank you for sharing your story, and I hope that somebody who's listening to this right now will put a date on a calendar for giving blood or for volunteering, whether it's with the Red Cross or with any other organization. We do have so many places locally, wherever you happen to be watching from. I'm sure that there's some place that needs your particular talents. And so thank you for being part of humankind. So thank you, Chris. I appreciate you so much. And thank you for what you're doing.
Thanks, Julie. Appreciate it.